Chop Chop was the first ever character who died in these Nuzlockes. He was voted back by the audience, but he was also the first ever person to die, which is just so funny. Well, I guess traditions never really die, do they? No shot! Oh, I got hit by a cannon! No, 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 no deaths, no deaths, no deaths. If I get hit by a ship, that would be insane. I'm not getting hit by that cannon. We are not doing that. Do not. Well. Look, I'm not saying SSA is bad. I'm saying Chop Chop is bad. Chop Chop is terrible. Chop Chop sucks. Oh, wait. Okay. Well, this was a bet. I don't know why they decided to come down here. I don't know why they went down. Why they all go down? They did not do that before. Damn. That's okay. That was expected. What the heck is happening? Chop Chop. Okay, so I would estimate 0 deaths, but since I have no levels and no upgrades, plus I'm using Chop Chop, a bottom tier Skylander, I'm gonna estimate 3 deaths. I think that's kind of accurate. So let's start. Going into chapter 1, there was already a single problem. Chop Chop's soul gem. It was locked behind the magic gate, and since I'm only allowed to use Chop Chop, I guess I just don't get a soul gem. But chapter 1 and 2 was mainly just grinding as much XP and coins as possible on the original enemies and very weak chests. There wasn't a lot of XP and coins going around. And since I was using a completely reset Skylander, I actually thought it'd be a good idea to do the heroic challenges. But I guess I don't really understand how they work because I went to check Callie and Chop Chop only had 1. I don't know why, but I did it. I got a little boost. Chapters 3 and 4 were also pretty simple. Don't really expect any insane stuff to happen during the early chapters of these games. Chapter 5 is where I actually got to use some of my upgrades. I got the Vampire Aura and the Spike Shield Bash. The Vampire Aura being a kind of really strong first upgrade. I didn't know he got that so early. Chapter 6 was all around a pretty solid level. I got a bunch of coins and XP, getting to practically level 5 and having enough coins to buy my 3rd attack. But that soul gem still eludes me. But having this 3rd range attack really helps out, especially in chapter 7 being our first major fight, the Water Shadowlanders. And having a ranged attack on a pretty much only melee Skylander is so useful. Even though the move isn't exactly that ranged, it's still good to keep distance away from your opponents, and that move is pretty solid at it. This is also the point in the run where I kind of just discovered the shield. Like, I always knew it was an option, but I never actually used it kind of ever. But this is like the first time I did use it, and it was pretty solid against Zap. Didn't really work well against Gil Grunt, and definitely did not help against Slam Bam. And then after that, chapters 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17 were all a clean sweep. And while I was doing this, I was also upgrading my sword path. I decided to go for the sword path instead of shield path because it's kind of just better in this game. And plus, shield path is really only good if you have the Wow Pow, which of course you can't get in the first game. Chapter 18 though is where things get interesting because we are doing the Undead Shadowlander fight, which I would personally say is the hardest fight in this game. It's harder than Chaos, especially for Chop Chop because all 3 of the Shadowlanders really hard counter him. Ghost Roaster pretty much dashing across the entire arena. It's just kind of hard for Chop Chop to keep up. And then fighting the shadow version of Chop Chop himself is actually really hard, because if you get close to him, he swings and takes out so much health. You have to like wait for the perfect moments to actually hit him. And it's just very bad if you're using your own guy. Chop Chop sucks, by the way. Hex is definitely the easiest out of the three to take care of, because she doesn't actually like attack you herself. She pretty much just drops bombs from the sky and you can just avoid them and attack her shield. And actually using the vampire aura, when you break the shield, it actually gives you HP, which is, I actually didn't even know that existed, and that's actually really good. So honestly, this is the only fight where he doesn't really get hard countered. I know I said they all hard counter him. I guess I lied. Hex does. So yeah, our first death came because we died to Chop Chop, which is just crazy. We beat him on the run back though, but our first death was still to Chop Chop. The next two chapters were insanely easy, and then we move on to the Fire Shadowlander fight, and there was a lot of close calls. I was on 200 HP for pretty much the entire fight. Whenever I would get food, I just get hit right back down. Mainly because of Sunburn, bro. His attacks are so annoying. But unlike with Undead, we actually beat this one first try. Okay, I've been having way too many close calls in these past two fights. Holy man. I did not want another repeat of the Undead fight. I really did not. We're now on to the last couple of levels, and to be honest, Chop Chop handled these very well. His moveset actually like countered the enemies a lot better than I thought it would. So let's just move on to the Chaos fight. The environmental changes that Chaos does is not really an issue, and I kind of can easily just dodge those perfectly. But the only problem comes with these Shadowlanders, because they can spawn with random Skylanders, and if we get unlucky enough where they just completely outwall Chop Chop. But luckily that didn't happen, and I was able to actually get around Shadowlanders very well, keeping majority of my HP for the entire fight. There was no real close calls. And then the second phase of Chaos is really easy because there is no Shadowlanders and it's just environmental changes, and those are not hard to dodge. And just like that, only one death, and it was the Chop Chop. I died to Chop Chop. No! Alright, Giants. I'm estimating around, how many deaths? I want to say 0, but I know I'm really bad at the Chaos boss fight in this game. Like, I'm extra bad at it. Specifically this Chaos boss fight. We are leveled, we're level 10. We still have 5 more levels to go. We're also stained in the blood of Crimson, which gives us a little bit of a boost. So, we also have Series 2 Shield Path. And I have a bunch of coins for it. So that's always good. After beating Chapter 1, I decided to switch over to the Shield Path because having Shield Path with Series 2 Chop Chop is definitely a lot better than the Sword Path, especially in Giants. And since we're pretty much almost max leveled and definitely max upgraded, we just slipped through 2 and 3. Chapter 4 just had way too many games of Sky Stones, and in Chapter 5 I realized that the Shield Bash is actually pretty solid for these small arena fights, which Chapter 5 has quite a bit of. Chapter 6 is going alright, well, alright in quotes. This is like one of the worst levels in the entire Skylanders franchise, but I had this weird glitch where I had like the targeting ring kind of just always on me, and it never really left throughout the entire chapter. I was just always being targeted by one of the Archean bombers, and it just never left. There are no threats in Chapter 7, not even a Chompy Mage boss fight, but I was kind of upset that I didn't do this boss fight damageless. I was really close. After Chapter 7 is where I decided to do my first Giants Heroic Challenge, and just like in Spyro's, I only had one Heroic Challenge to do. I could have sworn there would be more, but again, it was just one. Chapter 8 started pretty bad because I wasn't really paying attention and got stomped on by the robot quite a bit, but you know, once I decided to actually play the game, it was a breeze. Chapter 9 is known as a pretty hard chapter, But for me, it got even harder because my controller decided to mess up and make it so Chop Chop kept moving when I wasn't touching my stick. It wasn't drift because my controller didn't have drift. He was just moving on his own. Chop Chop just wanted to go in one direction and I had to force him to stop doing it, which just made this hard chapter a lot harder for no reason. And it wasn't just the throne room that Chop Chop also decided to walk on his own for the arena fight at the end, which almost got me killed a couple times. I was able to fix my controller before chapter 10 and it just made such a big difference. Like, I almost did this entire chapter damageless. My gameplay was so smooth here. And on the topic of smooth, you can normally cheese out the Drill X fight pretty easily, but Chop Chop can't do that because he doesn't have a move where he can stand still. So I couldn't cheese the fight, which I know, it's terrible. But this fight wasn't really any difficult to begin with. Bro, I can't put my shield down. What is happening? I can't put it down. Is this my win condition here? Bro, I'm gonna die. I can't put my shield down. I'm the only thing on my controller that I'm pressing is my joystick right now. And no matter what I do, I can't stop this. Am I fixed? No, I just can't. Ah! Wait, now I can't do anything. My attacks don't, wait, can I like? Yeah, no, my buttons still work. You know, I was starting to think that maybe Chop Chop wasn't that bad. Maybe he wasn't actually that bad. And then he just decides to not attack anymore. I mean, that's 2 deaths, but like, in the worst way possible. Also, I just realized I said death and not deaths. I just now realized that. Now it doesn't... Yeah. Alright, well, there we go. But bro! Dude, my mind was changed. I was like, you know what, Chop Chop? Maybe he's actually good. Maybe Chop Chop is good. And then I can't do anything anymore. So yeah, we got our second death, which was kind of unavoidable, and it didn't even happen because I wasn't skilled enough. My attacks just stopped working. It wasn't even the buttons. It was literally the attacks. I could still navigate around the menu and stuff, but just the attack buttons did not work at all. At least chapter 13 is easy though. Chapter 14 is where difficulty spike in Giants really steps up with the enemies introduced. The enemies in this level can pretty much two-shot you. But having the Chop Chop shield is extra useful here, because even if they do manage to hit you, most of the time they will just hit your shield. So Chop Chop kind of does really well in this level, except for all those times in my Nuzlocke. We don't talk about those times. Chapter 15 also has the same enemies as Chapter 14, but only in one section, and that section can be really easily cheesed if you just blow up the wall, bringing the ball into the final room, and the ball does hundreds of damage, pretty much destroying every single enemy in its path. This chapter can be very easily cheesed. As I've mentioned in the beginning of Giants, I am really bad at this particular Chaos boss fight. I have a lot of trouble dodging the enemies that Chaos actually spawns. They will eventually go away if you do enough damage to his fist. Except for in the final part, we kind of have to do a big ol' free-for-all, having enemies and the machine while also fighting Chaos. It can be a struggle. Dude. Okay. And that is Giants done. Hey, I'm not gonna lie to you. The Chaos fight in this game is top 3 worst boss fights in all Skylanders. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. That boss fight is not good at all. It is so bad. But we did die once in the stupidest way possible. So we are 2 for 2 on games. 2 games, 2 deaths. Maybe Swap Force can change that, but I did die, I think, 3 times in Swap Force with Boomer. And Chop Chop being, you know, worst counter of all time. We'll see how that goes. Anyways, on the Swap Force. Alright, Swap Force. Normally, I don't have trouble in this game. Well, I said that last time with Boomer, and I'm playing a much more worse Skylander than Boomer. And I died 3 times last time. It's fine. My Chop Chop skills are too crazy right now. It'll be alright. Of course, we get through chapter 1 without a problem, and then I actually switch over back to the sword path so I can use the series 3 WoW POW. Is it better than the series 2? I don't really know. But I'm using the series 3 figures, so I'm using the WoW POW. I spent the majority of chapter 2 just actually getting used to how Chop Chop plays in this game, because the first two Skylanders games they play pretty much the exact same, but Swap Force changes things a lot. So Chop Chop does different damage, he moves differently, and also his vampire aura heals 20 damage. It heals 20 health. That's good. That's real good. While playing through chapter 3, I found this funny glitch where when I pulled out my second sword, I got hit and Chop Chop just stayed in the animation. Like, the game still thought I had my shield out and stuff, but Chop Chop's model was holding the second sword, so I got some really funny looking animations. Chapter 4 is our first boss fight. Well, actually, isn't technically chapter 5? Because then boss fights are separated. So I think this is chapter 5. So chapter 5 is our first boss fight. And having the two sword style actually like kind of crushed Glumshanks. Even the Archean Knuckle Busters didn't stop this man from slicing down Glumshanks. Chapter 6 introduces some really annoying enemies, mainly the golems and so many spinning enemies. Just the Joseph Stalin of enemies. They just stall you for so long, and it's just so stupid. Chapter 7 also has a boss fight, but this one is really barely a boss fight. It is the most basic and simple thing you can think of. Enemy flies up, enemy goes down, jump over shockwave. And then you do that twice. And then you beat Baron Von Shellback, and that's not his name. Then you beat Baron Von Shell. You beat the Baron in a pretty cool boss fight. Not really, it gets used later on. Chapter 8, well, I guess chapter 9 is the Fire Viper boss fight. And this is a pretty simple boss fight until these fire orbs come out. They just have such a weird movement pattern. I always seem to get hit by one every single time. It takes so much effort just to dodge these because it feels like they just move randomly. And sometimes it feels like they track into you. They're like heat-seeking missiles, kind of. But not really. It's so weird. And then you kind of just avoid the fire golems in his mouth and then just kill him. Chapter 10 is the train level, and there is not many enemies to deal with. And there is a couple scary ones, but you could honestly just walk past them. Kind of like what I did. Chapter 11 is the chapter where I died like 3 different times as Boomer. And that was mainly because of the stupid like snow launchers. But for some reason this time, I just didn't get hit by them. So I don't really know what happened with Boomer, but Chop Chop was able to completely just destroy these machines. And then the fight at the end was really no problem. But chapter 12 level was pretty easy, and now we're on chapter 13, the best boss fight, Mesmerelda. This fight could either go super well or super terribly, and for me, it went super terribly. When fighting Mesmerelda, all it takes is one mistake for you to get comboed to oblivion and lose all of your HP. Kinda like what just happened to me. And because of this, I was only at 18 HP for the next phase of the fight. So, naturally,
I'd stay out of their way if I were you.
which puts our death counter at 3. We are 3 games and 3 deaths in. I was able to beat Mesmerelda the second time, although it being insanely close. I did get past it. Bro, why was that so close? Jeez. Why was that so tough? It's never been that hard before. Phantasm Forest and Chaos Fortress were also very easy. And then it was time for the hardest boss fight in the game, Bubba Greaves, which is just a repeat of Baron Von Shellshock. I remembered his name this time. Now it's finally time to take on Super Evil Chaos, and things were going so very well. Until the final part where I got a 1 hit from his fire move, and it just turned from like something that's meant to be like a quick 2-minute chase turned into like 15 minutes of dodging and avoiding this fire with Chop Chop. I really did not want to get hit here.
Are you lost? Let me give you a hand.
And after being a 1 hit, we beat Skylanders Swap Force with only 1 death. We are 3 for 3, 3 games, 3 deaths. And I got the Mesmerelda, bro. I got comboed. That was so annoying. Didn't die to Chaos. Didn't die to Bubba Greaves. Swap Force is done. And surprisingly, Chop Chop is pretty good in this game. I thought he'd be bad. He was pretty solid. Well, and we just hit 13 hours too. We beat Swap Force on the 13-hour mark. That's so funny. Let's see if we can go 4 for 4. 4 games, 4 deaths. How about that? Alright, we have reached the halfway point. We're now on Trap Team. And I'm estimating... let's see. Estimating around... I'm thinking 0 deaths. I'm feeling 0. We are level 20. We're maxed out. We don't have a good hat because I've really not been looking for one. And since we're on Trap Team, I'm not going to get a better hat. I also added a horn onto Chop Chop. It doesn't give him any benefit at all whatsoever. I just think it looks cool, so I kept it. As always, Chapter 1 is very easy, but also I want to talk about the differences that Chop Chop has in Trap Team compared to Swap Force and in Giants/Spyros. First of all, my attacks don't heal 20 health anymore. It's back to 7, which, you know, kind of sucks for the harder game, but I am the greatest Skylanders player of all time, especially on Trap Team, so it doesn't matter. But also, his third attack, the Bramble Bush. In the other games, it just hits a target one time, but in this game, it actually pushes the target back and gets multiple hits. So this attack gets upgraded from like a C tier move to like an A+ tier, just because of that. Instead of doing 80 damage, it does 80 times like 3. It gets a massive upgrade this game. Chapter 2 is also no problem, but I do want to mention how the Series 3 Wow Pow also gets a massive upgrade. Doing 100 damage a hit, and he swings super fast. This move gets a big upgrade. Chop Chop is actually good in this game. If you're using a ranged Skylander, the Chompy Mage boss fight isn't really that hard, but, you know, we're using Chop Chop. But we have the Wow Pow, which does a bunch of damage. But unfortunately, in Trap Team, every boss fight is practically a bullet hell, and you have to constantly jump, which cancels out the Wow Pow, which means you have to play every boss fight very slowly. There was one phase where if you just pretty much hold towards Chompy Mage, you can just attack and avoid every single fire wave. But once he's done with that move, it's kind of just keep swinging and hope you hit him. Chapter 4 is not an issue. The Wow Pow takes care of most enemies, and also the Bramble Bush attack, which I mentioned earlier, also takes care of most enemies. So this is a really good combo of just 2 moves, can pretty much deal with any arena battle that there is, and also pretty much any enemy that there is also. The first couple phases of Chef Pepperjack, Chop Chop can deal with pretty well. It's just avoiding the fire. But once you get to the patty dropping phase, that's where things get kind of complicated, because we can't just jump down and start attacking him, especially with the fire on the floor. So we either use the Bramble Bush attack, or we have to just wait for Pepperjack to done being Joseph Stalin so we can actually hit him. Chapter 6 is really easy, and Chapter 7 is where things get really interesting, because a couple of things happened. First of all, I got soft walked. One of the Snozzlers got stuck outside the arena behind this tree, and Chop Chop has no way of hitting him, so I was forced to reset. I gotta love Trap Team, man. So I went back into the level, didn't get soft locked this time, and then during the I-5 fight, I actually had a really interesting strategy. Well, 1, I took out every other enemy, so it was just me, I-5, and a single Ice Cream. I kept the Ice Cream alive because just in case I would get hit, I would kill the eyes that would spawn, giving me 7 HP for each eye, and it spawned like 5 at a time, being able to like pretty much have an infinite way to heal during this fight, which can sometimes just absolutely obliterate you. And I used that same strategy for the arena fight afterwards. Chapter 8 has the same hard enemies as Chapter 7, but they aren't really used well, so they're not that big of a threat. The only real problem in this chapter is the Hootsuko fight. Although it is easy to dodge his attacks, you have to be very consistent with it, and sometimes if you do something so much, you just mess up, and that's what I did a couple times. Chop Chop getting hit multiple times during this boss fight. And then you can easily cheese Pinata, and then Dreamcatcher is a laughable joke. I was getting through Chapter 9 pretty well until I got to the Frankenstein fight, where I just wasn't paying attention and took one too many hits. Which means I had to run around the arena and use my Bramble Bush, and stall the fight a lot. And if you thought that was bad, I did the exact same thing in Chapter 10. So just like what I did for Frankenstein, I also had to stall Fisticuff. And if you thought that was bad, I went into the Dr. Crankcase fight at 37 HP. My plan was to use the vampire aura to gain some health by killing the barrels, but luckily the barrels just dropped me some food, which was super nice, and I was able to beat Crankcase without any trouble. Except for starting the boss at 37 HP. Chapter 12 is free, now it's on to Wolfgang. The first phase can be a little tricky trying to dodge the music notes that target onto you, but once you're done with that, this boss fight isn't really that bad. Phase 2 can be very easily cheesed out by just jumping over his head a couple times. The laser show can be completely memorized, which I kinda have. And the final phase can be very tricky if you don't place your Skylander correctly, because if you go in the wrong spot at the wrong time, you just kinda die. Good thing I didn't do that. Chapter 14 is a nice breather. And then chapter 15 is so stupid in so many ways. One, because the level just being a turret section kind of sucks, and also the boss fight at the end being Taekwon Crow. Normally this boss fight isn't bad, but for whatever reason, when he does his one move, there's a chance that he just does 200 damage like 4 times. And it seems like it's completely random. Sometimes he'll kill you, sometimes you won't. And I almost died in this boss fight due to pretty much RNG. I don't get this fight, it makes no sense. And then something similar happened for chapter 16. Although I didn't get damage from a stupid RNG attack, I did just get damage from enemies, but I did have to fight the entirety of Graveclawer being a one-shot, so that was also fun, just stalling him out. Another Joseph Stalin moment. That has happened a lot so far. Chapter 17 is the Golden Queen fight, and of course I went into this fight being at half HP. I was able to get some pizza by destroying the turrets, and this fight was very annoying. I kind of just had to swing once and then jump around to avoid attacks, swing once again and do the same process over and over again. But I've done this boss fight so many times. I've practiced this so many times because I'm tired of dying to her. She kills me every single time. So I'm a master. I'm the master of the Golden Queen fight. I don't lose anymore. It don't happen. And finally, chapter 18, the Traptanium Chaos boss fight. And I have this fight down to a science. I have not died to this man in months. I'm just too good at him. Even with someone like Chop Chop, I can't die to Traptanium Chaos. It doesn't happen. It never happens. He's always been free. Unlike Golden Queen, which I actually had to practice. I don't have to practice him. He's just easy. As I predicted, 0 deaths trap team. I was to make Chup Chup good, all it takes is the greatest Skylanders player in the world. Yep, that's me. In just over 18 hours too. We beat the streak. We are 3 for 4. And now we're on the Superchargers. And it's gonna stay 3 for 5. Now wait, it's gonna be 3 for 5. Yeah. Alright, Skylanders Superchargers. And we were about to go 5 for 3. 5 games, 3 deaths. Because I am not dying in Superchargers. It's Superchargers. I am not dying. Do I? I was about to say, do I have like no save data at all? Because I went 100 in this game, bro. I don't know. Yeah, watch this. 0 deaths because it's Superchargers. This too easy. I'm running DK Barrel Blaster. The only correct card. The only one I have. And once again, Superchargers disappoints me. Even playing on Nightmare mode with a non-Eons Elite Skylander, it was still super easy. There was no complications whatsoever. The only real note I was able to take during this entire Superchargers playthrough is that I'd gotten a lot better at driving the car. That's pretty much it. I only died once in a boss fight, and it was to the final one. I died to the darkness. But it sucks how even on Nightmare mode, even using a non-Eon Elite Skylander, this game is still piss easy. And also this video is getting super long, so I'm glad we kind of just skip over Superchargers. Also, I accidentally hit undercord before I was able to make my whole outro thing I do in between games. So we're 5 for 0. No wait, what? We are 3 for 5. Well, 3.5 if you count that one car death. But if you don't, it's 3 for 5. And if you do, it's 4 for 5. And if you do, I don't like you. Anyway, on to Imaginators. Here we go, the final game. And I'm feeling real confident. We're gonna have 0 deaths. 0. Because my Chop Chop gameplay is too nice. I've been too good. I've been on fire since Trap Team. I've been on fire since Trap Team. And it's gonna stay like that. For Imaginators. Even though there's a lot of ranged enemies in this game. I forgot I was wearing that hat. Here we go, Chapter 1, and there's already an issue. The Doomlander at the end is a sorcerer, which means he is primarily mage. And by primarily, I mean only range. He only has ranged attacks, which is difficult for Chop Chop to get in. Since Bramble Bush in this game doesn't have the multi-attack on it, we have to very slowly chip down the sorcerer of Chop Chop. Luckily in Imaginators, our vampire aura heals for 20 health again, so we can actually afford to be a little bit reckless. But we still do not do a lot of damage. And speaking of a lot of damage, Chapter 2 introduces these bugs which do a bunch of damage, especially these dumb green ones. Sometimes their little area where they actually throw the ball and it lands, sometimes it just doesn't show you where the ball is going to land. So it's just it's just going to hit you and you can't do anything about it. Is that a glitch in the game or is that just a me glitch? I don't know. And the boss at the end of a brawler took a lot of time to kill. And just like with the sorcerer, I had to be very careful when I approached, because this brawler does do a bunch of damage. Chapter 3 is a nightmare chapter. It has 2 arena fights and 2 bosses. And in both the arena fights, there's 3 different types of enemies that spawn. There are mages that shoot balls that will grow and explode and do a bunch of damage. There are archers that will sit in the back and snipe you down. And of course, there are spinning enemies that you can't hit when they're spinning. So a combination of those 3 is really annoying. And fortunately, the Doomlander in this level, the Bazooka, is really easy. The only part where it gets kind of scary is in the final phase where she starts spawning in spinner enemies. But it's only like 2 at a time. And the evil sea monster is barely a boss fight. Chapter 4 isn't known to be that hard, but for some reason in this one specific section, I always almost die, or sometimes actually just do die. And I got really close this time around, but was barely able to make it out at 50 HP. Luckily, the Swashbuckler Doomlander is the easiest one. Normally, Chapter 5 is a pretty hard one, but I was honestly able to move around the birds very well. I'm pretty sure I got hit like only twice throughout the entire chapter, and the Night Doomlander is super easily cheesable. Let's just say during Chapter 6 and the ninja fight, I got a little bit reckless and became a one-shot towards the end. Still got it though, no worries. Chapter 70 Golden Arcade has pretty much nothing in it throughout the entire level. There's only like a small arena battle towards the end. But the main thing in this chapter is the Smasher Doomlander. The Doomlander which I normally have the most trouble with, but I have solved him. I'm a master at beating the Smasher now. You will never see me lose to this guy again, and that is a promise. Going into Chapter 8, I was super nervous about the Archer fight, because this boss fight is so annoying, especially the sheep he spawns. This was probably my longest boss fight yet, having to sit behind the pillars, slowly kill off the sheep with my bramble bush. And once they were all gone, I was able to hit the bowslinger. Not for a lot of damage, because, you know, Chop Chop and Imaginators does not do it much. So it was just that and that over again. Like, a lot over again. It was really painful. Chapter 9 is what I would say the hardest chapter in this game. For 2 reasons. 1, having also the hardest boss fight in this game. And then 2, the rat cage, which is this massive open arena with a lot of rats that spawn. And I mean a lot of rats. I have had so many Skylanders die in this area before. It's really just probably the hardest part about this game. Either this or the boss fight coming up. And speaking of that boss, it's time for the Quickshot Doomlander. The first phase is pretty easy, really nothing to say about it. But the second phase, he shoots this red orb, which ricochets off the wall, but it ricochets at the weirdest angles. It seems RNG on where it will go. And when you're using a melee Skylander like Chop Chop, it gets even worse, especially in the final phase where he shoots 2 of them. So you have to get close to the boss, while also avoiding these 2 red objects, which seem to just go in any direction whenever they want. I am surprised that I didn't die here. And this is it, the final chapter in this Chop Chop story. And the chapter itself actually isn't even that bad. There's only a few enemies to deal with, and it's pretty much nothing. And for the final Chaos boss fight, Well, I'll just let you watch. Oh. He was one hit from that? Okay, cool. Oh, wait, that's... Hold on. I guess it's time in a second. It was supposed to be time when I actually killed Chaos, but I was very... It was so unexpected that I just... That's time. 26 hours, 40 minutes, and 56 seconds. That's how long it took to beat every single Skylanders game with only Chop Chop. Wait, did we do this in less deaths than with Boomer? Did I beat this in less deaths with a Series 3 Chop Chop than I did with an Eon's Elite Boomer? Is that what happened? Being maxed out the entire time, by the way. The Boomer was. How many total deaths did I have in Boomer? I don't remember. Yeah, I died one less time here. And also, bro, wait, why did I do so much better with a Series 3 Chop Chop than an Eon's Elite Boomer? What sense does that make? It doesn't. Chop Chop shouldn't be good. He shouldn't be. That's the whole point, is that he sucks. But I just did better here than what I did with Boomer. Okay, I guess that works.